though it's hard to find enough time to spare.
Ideas in clothes for everyone.
But there's 1,000 answers here at
Electric value you can count on, with names like Philips and Clairol too. A fast hair dryer, and here's another flyer, a shaver for the fella who means most to you. Polaroid 1000 with a Christmas bonus, bikes for any member of your family. Benetton Royal Alarm Clock Radio, Envoy watches for you to see. Christmas paper, cards and wrappings, Woolworth vouchers, hey, hey, hey. Christmas trees and lights and trappings, gonna be a starry Christmas day.
There's 1,000 answers here at Woolworth. 1,000 ways to say you care.
Gifts bought with the American Express card are automatically insured for 90 days. Paid for any other way, they're not. American Express.
The gas people are your people.
Gas is the most popular fuel in British homes. It's clean, controllable and economical. But like any fuel, it must be used carefully. So if you smell gas, at home, at work or in the street, don't leave it to someone else. Call the gas people. We're in the phone book under gas. And we're on call 24 hours a day, every day. So remember, if you smell gas, call the gas people.
Making Christmas dreams come true always needs a touch of magic. Christmas has always been a part of Harrods.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name's Annie Burrow, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you all here to King Edward School for Life Church's carol service this afternoon, I'm not quite sure. But we're so glad that you're here, whether you've come along, you're part of the church, whether you've been invited today, or maybe you've had a postcard through your door, or if you're joining us through the live stream, you are really, really welcome. Today we're going to have some carols, we're going to have some readings, and then Si Munsey is going to be speaking to us about Christmas, just like the ones we used to know. Now, before we start, I've just got a couple of kind of housekeeping things to let you guys know about. If you could keep your masks on during the duration of while you're in here. We are allowed to take them off to sing, so please feel free, if you would like to sing, you can remove your mask for that. And obviously we're going to be having some drinks, mulled wine, mince pies and cookies and things after the service, and you are allowed to also take your masks off to have a drink and to eat, because that would be a bit difficult, wouldn't it? If you do need the toilet during the service, there are toilets just outside the auditorium as you came in. And also just to let you know that we are going to be taking some photographs today. So the live stream will be filming the service, but some people will be going and actually taking photographs, which we will be using for our promotional materials and on things like social media and Facebook. So if anyone does not want to be in any photos, please could you let Jen know? She's just standing down here, and she will make sure that you do not feature in any of those photos. And also just to say on the mask side for COVID that we are in a ventilated room in here today, just for your own peace of mind. Just for me to say, we're going to have the service now, and afterwards we're going to have refreshments. There's some board games out there as well, so please do join us afterwards and have a really good time. We're really glad that you're here and hope you really enjoy the service today. Thank you.
I'm doing a white Christmas.
A white Christmas.
Yes, very good.
White Christmas.
Yeah.
I just want it to snow, really. Don't really care about presents.
A new phone.
A new phone.
A
A phone. A bike.
No more COVID.
Yeah.
Not even. I want the word to be eliminated from the dictionaries and internet and everything.
I guess more people going outside and doing stuff. A nice present.
Yeah?
Hopefully it's a good one.
money for our wedding. There you go.
Ah.
Maybe next year's Christmas, I can have a boyfriend.
Good food.
Hopefully Santa comes and buys the kids their presents.
Seeing as many people as possible, as many of my family members, and like the biggest munch ever on Christmas Day.
To become a millionaire.
To become a millionaire.
I love Santa Claus and baby Jesus.
COVID-free and happiness. And actually getting to play spend it with family. And you?
Just enjoying Christmas spirit. I'd love some snow. Yeah. I don't know, maybe just to see my family again because I haven't seen them for a while.
Okay.
They don't live here, so I'm going to meet them when I go back.
Snow.
No snow.
Yeah, I want snow for Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice snowy Christmas, sledging. Yeah.
What I'm dreaming of is that I actually get to see all of my family members, because I've got family members who live quite far away and stuff, so.
COVID to be over.
Yes.
That's all I want.
I take no mask. Going out with friends, spread love again. Yeah.
Spread love, not COVID, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The gift?
The gift?
Yeah,
Yeah.
gifts from the old man. Yeah.
Gifts from the old man. You mean Father Christmas, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some nice Jordan 4s, white Oreos.
Oh,
They're really nice shoes. Yeah.
I want a drone to play with.
A drone.
There you go. I get my missus to buy me a drone.
Being there for my nan, yeah, 100%. Yeah, she had a tough year, so being there for her, getting together and just kind of like put the world to rights, definitely.
I'm dreaming for good health.
Spend time with family.
Spend time with family. In that order? Eat food, then spend time?
Yeah. An engagement ring.
No, just for everything to go back to the way it was, really.
Okay. So you're kind of wishing that Christmas was just like the ones we used to know?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Look at this. Check this out.
Good evening, everybody. The first song is going to be a performance song, so feel free to stay sat down and to enjoy. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know, where the tree tops glisten and children listen to hear sleigh bells in the snow. I said I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, with every Christmas card I write. May your days, may your days, may your days be merry and bright, and may your Christmases be white. I said I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know, where the tree tops glisten and children listen to hear sleigh bells in the snow. I said I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, with every Christmas card I write. May your days, may your days, may your days be merry and bright. So may your Christmases be white. La 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 la
Christmases be white.
The first reading this evening is taken from Isaiah chapter 9, starting at verse 2. The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the greatness of his government and peace, there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that and forever. The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this.
Let's stand together for our first carol.
Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Peace on earth and mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled. Joyful all ye nations rise, join the triumph of the skies. With angelic hosts proclaim, Christ is born in Bethlehem. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Christ by highest heaven adored, Christ the everlasting Lord. Late in time, behold him come, offspring of the Virgin's womb. Veiled in flesh, the Godhead seen, hailed incarnate,
The second reading comes from Luke chapter 1, verse 26 to 33. In the 6th month of Elizabeth's pregnancy, God sent an angel, Gabriel, to Nazareth, a town in Galilee, to a virgin pledged to be married to a man named Joseph, a descendant of David. The virgin's name was Mary. The angel went to her and said, "Greetings, you who are highly favored. The Lord is with you." Mary was greatly troubled at his words and wondered what kind of greeting this might be. But the angel said to her, "Do not be afraid, Mary. You have found favor with God. You will conceive and give birth to a son, and you are to call him Jesus. He will be great, and he will be called the Son of the Most High. The Lord God will give him the throne of his father David, and he will reign over Jacob's descendants forever. His kingdom will never end."
Thanks, Edgar. Edgar does the best readings. I'm going to get him to narrate the film of my life at some point, if that ever happens. Good evening. My name is Simon. It's a pleasure to welcome you, and I've got the best seat in the house because I get to see all of your lovely faces. Not yours, I'm afraid. But we'll get over that. We're going to celebrate Christmas this evening. I hope you're feeling suitably festive, even if we're in masks and all sorts of things like that. It is great to have you with us. And I'm Simon Munsey, if you don't know me. I'm part of the team here at Life Church. And the plan for this evening, as Annie's already told us, we're going to have some carols, some readings. We're going to sort of think a little bit about Christmas. We're going to be getting some mulled wine and mince pies afterwards. And if that's the only reason you're here, because someone promised you that, then we will get to that, I promise. But we've got some stuff to do first. We're going to have a little look at these readings that are being shared with us and have a look at what the Bible says about Christmas and kind of aim to have us think about just really whether Christmas really is just like the ones we used to know, or whether there's actually a little bit more to it than that. If you love belting out a carol, then this evening is for you as well. I love going for the warbly bits, the bits that Lois is doing, the little descants. During practice, I was doing my best to keep up with her. I can't do as good a job. But if that's why you're here as well, just go for it. This might be your only chance this year to belt out a carol. So don't hold back. Like I said, I'm going to lead us just through 3 short sections. We're going to be thinking about Christmas nostalgia, Christmas past, if you will. We're going to be thinking about Christmas nerves, maybe for this Christmas. You might be a bit nervous about that. And we're also going to be thinking about Christmas from now on, the Christmases to come. And if you're anything like me, Christmas at this time of year, the nostalgia is strong. Anyone else a nostalgic kind of person? You'd love to think back about how things were? No, just me. I can see a couple of people nodding. Yeah, so there's a few others. So it's that feeling that kind of, I guess it just overtakes you, overcomes you, that first moment when you hear Mariah Carey telling you what she doesn't want for Christmas. It just wells up in you until she hits that high note and you can't help but join in. That's kind of where Christmas nostalgia comes from. And it takes you right back to those Christmas moments that you remember maybe from childhood or even just from even kind of long ago in the distance, depending on how old you are. Maybe it's things like you go back and you think about those times when you used to circle things in the Argos catalogue. Does anyone do that? Yeah, you'd go through. We did this with my boys a couple of years ago and they circled everything. So it was a little bit futile. Or it was the time when you got your red pen out and you got the double issue Radio Times. Yeah, that was a big moment, wasn't it? Going through, thinking about which ones you're going to watch, which ones things you're going to set the video recorder for. Big and most important plans, I get it. Maybe for you, it's the time when you wander into the kitchen, you open that cupboard, and there's Christmas food in there that you're not allowed to touch. Did you ever have that, like a box of matchmakers or something like that, and it's like, no, that's for Christmas? I once got found out because I had found the box of matchmakers, and I'd worked my way through one side, and then got my way through the other side, and then when they came out on Christmas Day, it was a completely empty packet, and I had to own up. Maybe for you it'll be things like just the smell of that slightly not very nice smelling turkey in the oven as it slowly dries out, just waiting to be rehydrated by some kind of lumpy gravy or cranberry sauce or something like that. Or maybe it's the Queen at 3 o'clock for you on Christmas Day, and it's a big moment for you. Maybe you'll have your royalist uncle who stands throughout the whole of the thing out of respect for Her Majesty. Does anyone else have family like that? We certainly do. I WhatsApped my family as I was preparing this to say, Have you got any particular Christmas memories? I'm doing a talk and it's kind of Christmas nostalgia. And within 15 minutes, I had about 100 messages from my mum and my two sisters, just all flooding in with all sorts of things, of these actually memories that I'd somehow repressed deep inside me that then came bubbling back to the surface. One particular Christmas was for some unknown reason, my uncle decided that it would be a good idea to bring his new bagpipes into my grandparents' small house and share that joy with us on Christmas. And not only that, he'd also bought all the cousins little tin whistles, little penny whistles, just to really compound the misery. And I know that sounds a little bit like 1832, but it was in fact the 90s. And he regaled us with the one tune, I say a tune, one noise that he knew how to make. And we all tried to join into the great massacre of Jingle Bells that year, which was a real treat. And that Christmas was a bit of a shocker. Only topped, for me in my personal experience, by the Christmas when I woke up at 3 a.m. And that's early, isn't it? That's an early start for Christmas. And my parents wisely said, well, you can open one present. Just to keep you going for the rest of the morning until Christmas starts, when we're ready to wake up properly. So I chose a present that looked like it was going to be something to entertain me, it was going to be fun, it would keep me going. And it was a bulb kit. Yeah, plants. Can you imagine anything more disappointing than having to wait from 3 a.m. watching a bulb? It doesn't do a great deal, and that was a disappointing one. Maybe your memories of Christmas aren't as joyous as those for mine. Maybe even Christmas actually sparks memories that you'd rather not think about. You'd rather just kind of move on. You'd forget this whole time of year exists, and you'd just move on. But it's kind of unavoidable that Christmas just does something in all of us, doesn't it? You see, I guess even if your memories are great ones and they're happy ones, all their memories of Christmases that you'd rather forget, the question, I guess, for either both ways round for this Christmas and for Christmases all the way through are the Christmases just like the ones we used to know, all that they have kind of become in our minds, for better or for worse? Are they all that they've kind of come to mean to us? And in the readings that we're going to be hearing from the guys in the church, they're readings about the birth of Jesus. And if I'm honest, I think we end up kind of creating our own version of events of those things, don't we? We kind of create the version of events maybe that we've seen in nativities, or the kind of the things that we think we'd like to know. But is Christmas what we actually think we know of it? Or is there more to it than that? There's a lady called Dr. Christine Batcho, okay, and she is a nostalgia expert. In fact, she has got a PhD in nostalgia, which I'm sure she will look back fondly on. You are welcome. Her research finds this. She says that holidays remind us of people who have played important roles in our lives and the activities we shared with them. But considerable research has shown that these memories are often inaccurate with respect to the details. Nostalgic people, so all those of you who nodded your head a minute ago, nostalgic people tend to recall more memories in which other people play an important role. Long after the facts have faded, the feelings remain. And so I think, you see, it kind of goes that our nostalgia isn't so much about the Scrabble or the games with family or the radio times. It's the people. It's the people around us, which is why we end up caring about Christmas so much. Maybe that's why we think that Christmases, we want it to be just like the ones we used to know, because it's the people who were there with us. And I guess with that in mind, it's worth us just considering the person who actually all this is about. The person of Jesus. And not the old fat guy in the red suit, as the girl said on the video, but the man and the baby that we celebrate at this time of year, Jesus Christ. What would it look like if our Christmas had him at the center of it? If he played the central role, and if actually not just our Christmases past, but our Christmases future revolved around him. And so we're going to chat a little bit more about that later, but for now we're going to move on from Christmas past and our Christmas nostalgia, and we'll move to the Christmas present and maybe some of your Christmas nerves, which I'm hoping to help you with in just a moment. But for now we are going to sing our next song, and Lois is going to wonderfully sing our first verse for us, so don't join in and ruin it.
Once in royal David's city,
The third reading today is from Luke chapter 2, verses 1 to 7. In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. This was the first census that took place while Quirinius was governor of Syria, and everyone went to their own town to register. So Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and line of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born, and she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloths and placed him in a manger because there was no guest room available for them.
Thanks, Emily. You always get the toughest reading because you have to do Quirinius, governor of Syria. So you've done well, you've done well. Look, Christmas nerves are a real thing. Who's a bit of a kind of a Christmas worrier? You fret about what's going to happen at Christmas, you know, whether you're going to get everything right. So if that's you, this section carries a bit of a health warning, okay? It might send you over the edge as I just talk us through some of those things that might just get to you and cause you to snap at grandma, okay? So things like getting the right presents for the right people, it's a stress, isn't it? Yeah? Who's a planner ahead of Christmas? Lots of you, good. My wife didn't put her hand up then, which is a little bit worrying. You've got a few days, it's okay. Now, before we had kids, I was a Christmas Eve shopper. I used to love going shopping on Christmas Eve because the sales had started. So I used to just put my headphones in, go into Manchester and wander around and just buy whatever I fancied, basically. I just then would get home and then think, who would like that? And then wrap it up and see what happened. It was a lot of fun. And I can see actually some of you twitching at the thought of that lack of planning. Annie's not happy about that. Maybe for you it's Christmas food. That's a major stressor for some people. Who's responsible for Christmas dinner this year? Yeah, quite a few of you. Yeah, Phil's looking at me like I'm really worried about this. Help me out. Maybe this resounds with you. One April, my family were having people over for dinner, and they must have been a posh family from the church because we got like the proper dinner set out, like the vegetable dish with the lid. We got that one out, and someone got it out, and it had the peas and carrots from Christmas. So obviously we'd just forgotten about them because who cares about peas and carrots when you've got pigs in blankets on the table at Christmas, right? No one cares. And as we lifted the lid, it was not a pretty sight, I can assure you. But Christmas dinner is a big responsibility, isn't it? It's one of those things that you've just got to get right, and it always ends up dragging on later than you thought it was going to be. So you time it with the Queen, after the Queen? Well, now it's ready whilst the Queen is on, and how are we going to deal with this? It's a real challenge, especially if it's kind of a wider family and people's different dietary requirements are kind of coming into play. So you've got a cousin who's gone vegan this year. How do you cater for her? You've got Uncle Keith, who we all know is dairy intolerant, even if he doesn't understand that that's the case, as his silent contributions throughout the afternoon prove. It's a very difficult thing. And there's also the terror of having to carve the turkey in front of Grandma, who will always let you know that you haven't done it anywhere near as well as Great-Granddad used to do it. It's a big deal. And Christmas nerves are a real thing, that things just aren't going to live up to the expectations that either we've got or other people have got. And it can end up just overshadowing the whole day for a whole lot of people. So this Christmas, my wife and I and the kids, we're going to be driving about 750 miles. We're going up to the Lake District. We're then going from there to Swansea, and then we're coming back down this way. So at the end, we will be taking an offering for the petrol. Please feel free to be generous. But have you ever wondered, why do we do it? Why do we put ourselves through all of this stress at Christmas? Why do we make it such a big deal? Why do we feel the nerves or the pressure that we feel? And I think it kind of boils down to this. I think at Christmas, it's a case that we want to give our best to those who matter most. Don't you? I think that's kind of what Christmas just is summed up nicely as, giving our best to those who matter most. Now, maybe you've heard the Christmas story told in such a way that Joseph is made out to just be a bit of a bumbling idiot. Okay, he's forgotten to book the Airbnb, he's not sorted out the travel arrangements, Mary's having to shuffle along on this old donkey, she's puffing and panting. Oh, we've got a splat. Is she okay? We're all right. And then she's puffing and panting on this donkey. They arrive in Bethlehem. She's like shuffled into this farm building, and then she pops out a baby all in the one night, and it's quite a stressful situation. And it makes for a great nativity because you get loads of characters that way. But sadly, it's not true to the reality that we see in Scripture. It's not true to what the Bible actually tells us. You see, if we tell the Christmas story as it's intended to be told, it actually ends up making far more of Christmas than our caricatured version of it. So you see, Joseph, as we heard in that reading, was part of the royal line. He was part of David's lineage. And so Bethlehem, even though a little town, was royal David's city. That's where he was from. And so it was a big deal that Joseph was from David's family. And when he arrived in Bethlehem, he would have been treated as such. He would have been able to go back and say, oh, no, I'm Joseph, son of Jacob, who was son of Mathan. And everyone would go, oh, you're Joseph. So he wouldn't have been kind of scrabbling around looking for somewhere to stay. They would treat him as his lineage deserved. Middle Eastern culture was then and is now a welcoming culture. So it wasn't that they knocked on the doors and people just slammed it in their face, saying, no, you haven't booked, you should have thought about this. That's not how it went. And then if you add in that a pregnant Mary is with him, all cultures in the world ever have always honoured and looked after diligently pregnant women. Otherwise, the world wouldn't have continued. And yet here we are. That's just how it was. And so they didn't also go to an inn like a pub or a hotel or something like that. The rooms that they would have stayed in, it was basically a family home in Bethlehem, and someone just welcomed them into their house. And there might have been a little guest room on the outside, which is the kind of the word that we get in for. And we also know that elsewhere in the Bible, we know that Elizabeth, Mary's cousin, isn't that far away. She doesn't live miles and miles away. So if Joseph had been a complete wally and hadn't sorted anything out, they would have just gone and stayed with her, because if gents, you're anything like me, if your plans haven't gone to plan, then your wife will always have a backup. And they didn't go for Mary's backup, so they must have been okay. You see, the home that they were welcomed into, like I say, it was this simple kind of one-room place, maybe with a little annex or something like that. And there was probably animals in there, maybe a cow, maybe a donkey. And they would have been brought in at night. Firstly, so they weren't nicked when they were left outside, but secondly, because animals produce warmth in all the ways you imagine animals produce warmth. And it might have been a little bit smelly, but it kept everybody warm in the house, and that was a good thing. And then also, they had their manger, which was like a hollowed-out kind of stone basin, basically, which was a great place to put a baby out of all the places you could have chosen in a simple one-room house. And so they would have wrapped the baby, kept it warm, freshly laid straw, and Mary would have been cared for by the local women. There weren't hospitals, there weren't midwives as such in those days, but the women who'd been there and done it could tell others how to be there and do it. And so she would have been well looked after, and long before gas and air was available, she'd have had the local women helping her out. And this was normal. This was normal people giving their best to those who mattered most. And in this case, the one who mattered most is a baby. And I guess the question we're left with is, well, who is this baby? Is it just another baby? Is Jesus just another somebody in history? Because if he is just a baby, then even the Christmas story, just on a surface level, we can just be content in keeping it how it is. We can just do Christmases just like the ones we used to know. We can leave it at that. We can enjoy the presents. We can enjoy the food and festivities, and it doesn't need to affect our lives in any way. But if Jesus is who the Bible claims he is, and who Jesus himself claimed to be as he grew up, and who countless lives have devoted themselves to throughout history, well then, actually, we're left with a bigger decision to make about what Christmas is. And it's not just the festivities and the food and the nostalgia. Maybe there's something more to it. Maybe actually it has the power to change Christmas and beyond from now on. And we're going to have a think about that in the final section in just a few moments. But first we're going to sing again, and we're going to hear our final reading in just a moment. So let's sing again together.
Holy night. It is the night of our dear Saviour's birth. Long lay the world in sin and error pining, till he appeared and the soul felt its worth. A thrill of hope, the weary world rejoices, for yonder breaks a new and glorious morn. Fall on your knees, oh, hear the angel voices. A night divine, oh, night when Christ was born. Oh, night divine, oh, night when Christ was born. Truly he taught us to love one another. His law is love and his gospel is peace. Chains shall he break, for the slave is our brother, and in his name all oppression shall cease. Sweet hymns of joy in grateful chorus raise we, let all within us praise his holy name. Fall on your knees, oh, hear the angel voices. Oh, night divine, oh, night when Christ was born. Oh, night divine, oh, night when Christ was born.
The fourth reading is taken from Luke chapter 2, verses 8 to 20. And there were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel of the Lord said to them, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people. Today, in the town of David, a Saviour has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in cloths and lying in a manger." Suddenly, a great company of the heavenly host appeared to the angel, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace to those on whom his favour rests." When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let's go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has told us about." So they hurried off and found Mary and Joseph and the baby, who was lying in the manger. When they had seen him, they spread the word concerning what had been told them about this child, and all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds said to them. But Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things they had heard and seen, which were just as they had been told.
Now, we've all got those weird things that happen at Christmas that we think are completely normal until you experience Christmas with another family, haven't we? Right? There's all sorts of things in your Christmas that you think are completely normal, and they're really weird. I hate to break it to you, but one day you will find it out. Now, when I was a kid, my grandparents, instead of having a Christmas tree in the corner of their house, which just even when you just think about a Christmas tree, it's kind of weird, isn't it? When you stop to think about that, you bring a tree inside, you kill it, and then you hang stuff on it, and that's a celebration of Christmas. That's a strange thing, this spiky thing in the corner of the room that slowly dies. Anyway, sorry for ruining Christmas trees, but my grandparents, rather than thinking, okay, well, Christmas tree, yes, that's spiky enough. No, they went one step further, and they got this big branch of holly from the bottom of their garden every year. My granddad had actually made like its own special wooden plinth that he drilled a hole in, and they rammed this piece of holly in, and it came just far enough across the door that you'd spike yourself every time you walked in. And if the holly itself wasn't strange enough, what they would do is they'd wrap up tiny little presents and put them in amongst the holly tree. And then not only that, but my granddad had actually made like a wooden tombola machine. Yes, it is that weird. And so we'd all go and we'd sort of twizzle the thing round, and then you'd pick out a number, and then you'd go to the tree and definitely spike yourself trying to find the present, and invariably it would be a packet of tissues or a pair of tights, which I would then swap with my sisters for the tissues that I didn't want either. But when I was 8, that was completely normal. Completely normal. That's just what we did at Christmas. And there are all sorts of things that you do at Christmas that are quite strange. Do you know, in fact, the first Christmas that I spent away from my family, I went to my girlfriend's, now my wife's house. And on Christmas Eve, I just had to take myself away upstairs on my own. They might not even know this, and they're here this evening. I took myself away, and I just teared up a little bit, all on my own. Because it was the first time that I'd not had Christmas with my family, and I knew what they'd be doing. And it wasn't what we were doing. Because they were getting Christmas wrong. Because they didn't do it my way. And it'll be the same for all of us. You know, I knew that my mum would be getting really stressed and shouting at people about getting the vegetables ready, and she just had to get it done tonight because we had church in the morning, and you know, those lovely things about Christmas. And I knew that they'd be doing all sorts of stuff, like working out who was going to phone my grandma on Christmas morning to tell her that he's been. That the presents are under the tree and he's been, you know, just because that's the things you have to do on Christmas, isn't it? You have to phone grandma and do things like that. But there's something special, isn't there, about being around people that you can just be completely and utterly yourself with. And that first Christmas with my wife's family, it wasn't quite the same for me. I wasn't able at that point, I am now, I wasn't able to be completely myself with them. But there is something really special about just being exactly as you are. You can be just who you want to be. You don't have to pretend, because they know you. You see, even if you hate Christmas, your family probably know that. Maybe even you found someone else who dislikes Christmas as much as you, and you just happily don't enjoy Christmas together. You can be exactly as you are with them. What better thing is there in the world than just coming as you are, not having to pretend, not having to even live up to an expectation? You know, things like your grandma is always going to say, have you put on weight? Things like that. Things like your mum saying, oh, no boyfriend this year. All those sorts of things. You're coming with those expectations, and with your family, you know you're going to get it, so you can just be exactly as you are. Now, in that final reading, we heard about these shepherds. These shepherds who We get used to this idea that they're just out on this hillside somewhere, they're watching their flocks, and then an angel, obviously, comes and tells them about the birth of this baby Jesus. He's born in the town of David in Bethlehem. But this has become so part of the fabric of the Nativity and the story of Christmas for us that it's easy to forget what an incredible thing that actually is. What an amazing moment that was to have people like them that was part of this story, this most significant part of the story of the arrival of the Son of God on earth. Do you know that it's really good news that people like the shepherds are part of this story? It's really good news for people like you, and it's really good news for people like me. And it has everything to do with what I shared a few minutes ago. Not that my uncle brought his bagpipes to Christmas, but that Christmas is about giving our best to those that matter most. And so my two final questions for us then are this. What is the best? And who is it that matters most? And I think we see the answer in this baby and in these shepherds. You see, God has existed since forever and will continue to exist forever. And yet in this singular moment in human history, he has chosen to step into this world that he created in the most fragile form possible. This God who holds the universe in the palm of his hands is now held in the hands of a young mother in this tiny little town in the Middle East. In this house, these new parents, he's naked and helpless and just born into this world of a mess that we know around us. The one who sees and knows all things is made incarnate, is made in human flesh, in a body. This fragile little body. See, Mary was told that he would be called Emmanuel, which means God with us. And Jesus Christ is the Savior of the entire world, and he is given into this world in the most normal means. Just in a normal house to normal people in completely normal circumstances in some ways. And yet, he is the very best that heaven had to give. And he came into the world for those who are most important to God. You see, the shepherds wouldn't have classed themselves as important. In fact, they would have known that they were some of the lowest of the low. They were ceremonial unclean, in fact. They wouldn't have been allowed into somebody else's house because of what they'd been doing and the fact that the sheep were just gross. They were unclean. And so these angels come and they say, go and visit the baby. What, us? We know we're not allowed in. And yet, they go and visit this baby. This promised one that God had said he would send to bring freedom to all the people of the world. But how could these men possibly go and visit one so holy? There was no way, surely, that they would be even allowed in the house. Well, what about, though, if this special baby, what if he was born to your town? Like a town that you knew, like a house just like yours. What if he was born, in fact, in the same way that you would have been, with all the women of the town around you helping you along the way? What if he was wrapped in swaddling clothes, these bands that they would wrap around the baby, in the way that they would have been wrapped when they were a baby? In fact, that they would have seen every baby since ever been treated like, and they go, oh, he's somehow just like me. You see, this Jesus came to people like the shepherds. And he comes to people like you and to me this evening. He comes in our joy and in our heartaches. He comes in our brokenness or in our together moments. He comes in our indecision, or he comes even in our skepticism. And he invites us, just like he invited those shepherds, to come just as we are. They didn't go and clean themselves up. They just went. They listened to the invite and they took it. There was no pretense. There was no mask. They didn't try and make themselves look more presentable. They came just as they are. And we can come this Christmas to Jesus just as we are. You see, he came for people like me and to you. And when we go back to our families or whoever you might see this Christmas, it's easy, isn't it, to pretend like we've got it all together. It's easy to pretend that we're not facing difficulties and hardships. It's easy to try and live up to our Christmas past, to try and make it just like the ones that we used to know, to make this one even the best one ever, despite what might happen. But what if this Christmas, it wasn't actually just like the ones we used to know? What if there was something so much more underneath it because we'd understood that heaven had given the very best to you, the ones that matter most to God? What if, like the shepherds, we can come just as we are, knowing that we're not going to be turned away, knowing that he could actually be Emmanuel. He could be God with us. He could be God with you this Christmas. In everything that you're facing even. It says in the Bible that God loves you so much that he sent his one and only Son into the world, and that when you believe in him, when you put your trust in him, everything changes. Your past, your present, in fact your future are all irrevocably changed just through him. And look, this isn't the whole story. In fact, it's very much just the beginning of the story. And maybe it's the beginning of the story for you. But if there's something that I've said this evening that has made you just think, do you know what? Maybe there's a bit more to this. Maybe I want to discover just that little bit more about who Jesus is. Maybe I've just written it off as the stuff that I thought I knew. I would love to invite you to find out more about him. We're starting a course in the new year, and Annie will tell you a little bit more about that. There's some information at the back of your order of service. And I would love to invite you to just discover a little bit more. And we're going to listen to a song in just a moment that encapsulates all that I've been talking about really this evening. I'd love you to just take a moment to reflect as we do that and as the guys sing it to us, and just maybe even say to God, if you're actually there, I'd love to know that. I'd love to know that you are Emmanuel, that you could be God with me, even this evening in an auditorium in the middle of Southampton. But before we do any of that, from me and from my family and from all of us at Life Church, I want to wish you a very, very Merry Christmas. And I would love to pray for you before I finish. So God, I thank you for this time of Christmas. I thank you for all of us, even though there are all sorts of emotions wrapped up in it, some good and some painful, that you understand because you know what it is to be human, just like us. And you knew what it was to experience the full range of humanity. But Lord, I thank you that the very best that you could have given shows us that we are of the utmost importance to you. Lord, help us even this evening to come just like those shepherds this Christmas. Come just as we are, knowing that we can see you. When we see you, Jesus, we see the very face of God. Amen. Amen. Let's take a moment to reflect as the incredible band lead us in this song.
Oh, come, all you unfaithful, come, weak and unstable, come, no, you are not alone. Oh, come, barren and waiting ones, weary of praying, come, see what your God has done. Christ is born, Christ is born, Christ is born for you. Oh, come, bitter and broken, come, with fears unspoken, come, taste of his perfect love. Oh, come, guilty and hiding ones, there is no need to run. See what your God has done. Christ is born, Christ is born, Christ is born for you. He's the Lamb who was given, slain for our pardon. His promise is peace for those who believe. He's the Lamb who was given, slain for our pardon. His promise is peace for those who believe. So come, though you have nothing, come. He is the offering, come. Taste of his perfect love. So come, though you have nothing, come. He is the offering, come. Taste of your love has done. Christ is born. Christ is born. Christ is born for you. Christ is born. Christ is born. Christ is born for you.
Superb. Thank you so much, guys. Look, if you'd like to do as the shepherds did and come just as you are, just like that song talks about, in your weakness, in your brokenness, I'd love to invite you to do that this evening. To come and maybe find me afterwards, or find one of the team here, and just have a chat about that. There's no pretense needed. There's no mask required, even though we'll hopefully be wearing masks. You can come just as you are. And if you'd like to find out a little bit more, Annie will tell you some more about our Alpha course in just a second. But I don't want you to miss the moment this evening. I believe that for lots of us, actually, God will have been speaking to us. And you will maybe just have felt something inside. And you could think it was the lights. You could think it's just nostalgia. But maybe it was actually God. Maybe God is actually just trying to grab your attention tonight. And he wants to bring you into a relationship with him. He wants to actually help you to get to know him. And so I'd love to help you to do that. I'd love to introduce you to Jesus. And if you want to come and find me afterwards, like I say, I would love to do that. We can have a mulled wine, and we can play Scrabble or Mousetrap or something like that while we do it. We can come just as we are. But we're going to sing one more song, and then Annie will tell us some more information after that. Thank you so much.
Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him room. Let heaven and nature sing, heaven and nature sing, heaven and nature sing. Joy to the world, the Savior reigns. Let men their songs employ. Rock fields and floods, rocks, hills and plains, repeat the sounding joy, repeat the sounding
Wonderful. Thank you so much to our amazing band. Thank you to everyone else who has been involved in putting this evening together. I'm sure you can join me in thanking everyone. And thank you to all of you who have come to us this evening. We hope that you've had a lovely time and that you'll stay and join us for some refreshments after the service. So I just wanted to mention a couple of other things, ways that you might want to respond this evening. We are going to be having an offering or retiring collection, there'll be some buckets as you leave, so not the auditorium, but as you actually leave the college, the main doors. And if you want to give into that, it's not going to the Munsey road trip. But it is going to the Life Support Fund. That's essentially a fund that we keep as Life Church, and we use it to bless people who are in need, who are in poverty throughout the year. So if you would like to give into that, you are very welcome to. Si already mentioned about an Alpha course. So as a church, we've got an Alpha course which is starting on the 20th of January. We're going to be having a launch evening with some great food and just an introduction to the course. The Alpha course is really a chance to kind of get to know a bit more about the Christian faith. So if anything that Si shared today about the baby Jesus, about the life, the death of Jesus, about who he is, if any of that sort of sparks something in you and you would like to know more, then this is a great time to come and just find out without having to sign up to the whole course. You can come along to the introduction and just see if that might be something for you. So that's going to be held at the Boathouse, which is our sort of hub building down in Beavers Valley, and we would love to see you. There's a QR code in your program, so if you want to, you can scan that. You can do that now, or you could do that perhaps when you get home, but it would be lovely to have you, and we would love to see as many of you there as possible. If any of you would like to come and join us on a Sunday morning, we are going to be back here at King Edward School from Sunday the 9th of January, and we meet at 10:15 every Sunday, and it would be great to see you here. So please join us, as I say, for mulled wine, cookies, mince pies and retro board games out in the cafe. And that just leaves me to say, on behalf of everyone here at Life Church, a very, very Merry Christmas. We hope you have a wonderful time and look back with nostalgia, but enjoy the Christmases to come. So thank you very much and good evening.